Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair agale ni hao chunashume washmale. Oh hi, gozaimasu, guten Morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho gracias, swabi, balli kare aaya. Hoş geldin and ayo sai khuyamora chibatto chi haljot kalimera khairutan, and a very warm welcome to everyone who's actually tuning to Pakistan TV and watching World This Morning. Just going to take a second to settle down over here. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well, that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. And with that, there's quite a lot that we will be talking about today. Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, has been at a very amazing sort of a diplomatic ascent, and it looks like as if the graph is just going up, and we all Pakistanis can't just keep calm. Well, what are you in for today is something that I would want you to kind of go through with me. Ladies and gentlemen, taking a good look at the highlights of the program for today, or what sort of a conversation you're in for. First things first, obviously the Pakistan Army and China's People's Liberation Army have commenced the joint military exercise Warrior 9, the 9th edition of the annual bilateral counterterrorism exercises. The exercise began focusing on counterterrorism operations to enhance interoperability, refine professional skills, and exchange best practices in modern warfare. Pakistan and China share long-standing defense cooperation rooted in trust and strategic partnership. Exercise Warrior 9 demonstrates the strong military-to-military relations between the two countries and underscores their commitment to regional peace, stability, and security. On the other hand, where we're talking about regional peace and security, ladies and gentlemen, NATO chief Mr. Mark said he was confident that U.S. efforts to end the Ukraine war could bring peace as Washington representatives were in Moscow to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. We are all working to bring the war against Ukraine to an end with just and lasting peace. We welcome the ongoing efforts led by the United States to make this a reality, Mark told a journalist. The head of the Western Military Alliance said Kiev had already shown that it was ready to play ball with U.S. President Donald Trump's efforts. Well, quite a lot of efforts by the Trump administration globally to make sure that, that there's a regional peace or probably peace at large. And it's wonderful to see how President Donald Trump have actually made sure that he's not going to leave anything behind in making sure that there will be peace in countries where there have been conflicts. In addition to this, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan TV has always been all about inclusivity, and that's exactly something that we promote. So ladies and gentlemen, today actually happens to be the day for the people living with disabilities. We will be talking about that too as well. The theme this year is very different, and I think that every individual really needs to kind of come together in making sure that we are able to achieve that. So while speaking of the theme, ladies and gentlemen, what we really need to kind of discuss over here is that how each and every one of us can actually play a role, because we are saying fostering disability inclusive society for advancing social progress. Well, that's wonderful. That'll be quite a fruitful conversation, because we will be joined by the Chief Executive Officer of DeafTawk, who's got 14 years of experience and is making sure that there's more inclusivity all around Pakistan. Towards the end, ladies and gentlemen, we will be joined by a very influential figure over here on our morning show, and it's because of the fact that he's that one gentleman who's been at the forefront of the Prime Minister Youth Program, and because of his services, he's been awarded the Dr. Henry Charles Global Youth Worker Award 2025, and it was under the auspices of the Commonwealth and Commonwealth Alliance. Well, these are the pictures of the award, but wait till the gentleman actually makes his way to the studio over here. Well, this is it for the highlights, ladies and gentlemen, and certainly for each and every one of you, there's quite a lot which will be unfolding on the other side. Meanwhile, if you're having a breakfast, make sure that you continue to, stay tuned to Pakistan TV. And in addition to this, if you're missing out on a cup of tea or a coffee, please make sure that you rush to the kitchen, get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, come back. We will be right back after a short break. Don't go anywhere. We are World This Morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Well, I'm not really sure whether, this time is enough for you to kind of run to the kitchen, grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, but we are back. And certainly we cannot wait or hold on for more, but for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, to get started, I did mention right at the beginning of the highlights that we will be talking about defense cooperation between Pakistan and China, because the Pakistan Army and China's People Liberation Army have commenced the joint military exercise Warrior 9. And it's the 9th edition of the annual bilateral counterterrorism exercises, and the motive obviously certainly is that Pakistan and China share long-standing defense cooperation rooted in trust and strategic partnership. To speak furthermore about it and to kind of speak about the participants of it, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by a geostrategic expert. He happens to be Dr. AQAB. Malik, hello sir, assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Well, wonderful. You know, it's certainly so amazing to see somebody as well dressed as you.
Well, this is normal for me, though.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. I think it's becoming normal for us too as well. But to kind of get started, I think first things first, and that is, Dr. AQAB, that this is the 9th edition of the Warrior series. What does that tell us about Pakistan and China's defense ties?
Well, this is an ongoing platform that Pakistan and China have used for many years now. You mentioned interoperability. It is linking both militaries and understanding on the counterterrorism aspect, but it has wider implications as far as Pakistan is concerned and China. So let's go through what it might mean for both countries and how they both gain from this, but also what the fallout might be.
Sure.
So Pakistan would also gain understanding that China's had. It's got a very strong modern military, China has. It's upgraded itself massively over the last few years. And coming with us and linking in and training with them, learning new techniques, new ideas, new technologies that we can use in our very severe counterterrorism operations because of the circumstances that we've been in for many years now. To increase our capacity more than anything else, I think it would benefit us probably more than it would do the Chinese, but also our grounded understanding and operations capability. The operations we did a few years ago, which were absolutely successful, that could be transferred to China as well for any potential use that they may have. So it is a mix where we both explore our understanding, both practice new technologies, new ideas, and ways to combat this scourge of terrorism in our country and the potential of it in China.
Exactly,
also.
and thank you so much for mentioning that. And you know, I think more than, you know, whether who's going to benefit more, I think if we are to kind of speak about or tap on counterterrorism, I think there's quite a lot from Pakistan's perspective that can be actually shared with China, which certainly is great. Not just that, I think I would want to kind of you know, make my audiences aware how the Mangla Corps Commander, Deputy Chief of Staff of the PLA Western Theater Command, Major General Bian Xiaoming, along with senior military officials from both countries, attended the opening ceremony. So the military top brass being over there, attending the ceremonies, actually kind of shares a very significant message. What do you make of that message, and what is that message?
Well, we've had very strong alliance links with China for many decades, and we're growing, in fact. Linking in like this allows us to build that relationship even more. Now, I think many people are aware that China has had some concerns as far as their people are concerned here, who are helping us build our infrastructure, for example, and many different projects in Pakistan, and we're utilizing that resource as much as we can to build ourselves. And their safety is very important to us. And this is one aspect of that, to ensure that we are providing that safety, but also that we are doing this at the highest levels to build confidence within each other.
True.
And that's very important. Build that link, make it stronger. As a result, there's knock-on effect on this. We provide safety and security for the workers from China, and they feel safe, would lead to further investment. And that's the point. To build Pakistan up, we need investment from all different criteria in Pakistan, from different international actors, which also have a knock-on effect for other countries to invest in Pakistan, because the security environment will be upgraded, in fact.
Exactly, you know, so it's more about, you know, Pakistan becoming a safe haven. We've been a safe haven as well, and we've always made sure that, you know, we value this ironclad partnership or friendship with China, because as we say, Pak Chin Dosti Wang Swai. Now, in addition to this, I think that most important aspect would be the timing of these exercises. Now imagine that there have been quite a lot of unfortunate incidents. First of all, there was the Pahalgam false flag operation where Pakistan military and the civil leadership dominated. Not just that, there were skirmishes alongside the borders of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and these skirmishes were in between the Pakistan armed forces and the Afghan Taliban regime and the militant groups which are operating, and that too on the proxy of India. Unfortunately, there have been incident of cross-border attacks from Afghanistan and Tajikistan as well, where unfortunately 5 Chinese people have passed away as well, and they have died, and quite a lot have been injured. Now, if we are to kind of see or put in perspective the timing of these exercises, how essential or what sort of a messages are we going to give to the people who are neighboring just around us?
Truth of the matter is, it's not just about peace and security from within Pakistan. It's sending a message to other countries.
Yes.
And that acts as a form of deterrence as well. Then we're not alone in this. The international community is backing us. And we know a week and a half ago with the statement by the permanent representative from Denmark in the United Nations Security Council that TTP, for example, is a non-state actor that is utilizing Afghan soil, irrespective of what the Taliban regime is saying, is using that soil to launch attacks into Pakistan and devastating attacks, and we can't allow that to happen. So we're getting international support, and this commitment from China is very important. It also sends a message to Afghanistan that China is very serious about the counterterrorism operations here, is serious about TTP using soil in Afghanistan against Pakistan, because we are an ironclad alliance with and partner with China, and as a result, Taliban should take note of this, because it could be detrimental to them in many geopolitical aspects and investment in Afghanistan.
Exactly, which certainly looks like as of now as a challenge as well. Unfortunately, we have seen how maybe in Tehran, how they're making sure that that for all of that migration which have taken place certainly needs to be settled with their vetting processes, which are going to go on in the United States of America, followed by the several attacks by Afghan nationals over there. In addition to this, let's speak more about exercise now, because we are focusing on counterterrorism. Is it more about on ground, or is it more about intelligence sharing?
It's multiple aspects. Counterterrorism, however, in essence, because I worked on counterterrorism strategy for the country as well for many years in the last decade, is essentially a law enforcement activity.
Okay.
But the military took the hold of this because of the immense outstanding performance that they've had, and the type of terrorism that we had, because it wasn't just terrorism, it was an insurgency in essence as well. What that does is give us grounded understanding of the lay of the land, you could say, and the landscape of terrorism in Pakistan and emanating from other countries, where we're talking about Afghanistan, but also its support from our eastern neighbor, India, and how they're infiltrating, utilizing different resources. Unfortunately, people in Pakistan that are not set to the advantage of Pakistan, such as militia separatists, funding them maybe not to the lack of their knowledge or overtly to damage this country. So intelligence is a very major aspect, and you're absolutely correct here. It is not grounded operations alone, because we're very efficient in that.
True.
It is making sure that we acquire as much information as possible about the different sources and different aspects of funding, aspects of where these operations are being held, which groups are doing this, so we can target the root causes and the sources and the core elements of this directly with our new capabilities.
So that we can eliminate this menace once and for all as well, and that's exactly the stance of the military leadership. Now, since we've spoken about on ground, we've spoken about intelligence sharing, Dr. AQAB, I think I would want to bring in where it was the very first word that I used while I was actually giving it away in my highlights, that this is something that we will be talking about. Now, how do you think interoperability will actually come into play with all of these exercises being conducted in Pakistan hosting it?
I think joint exercises have been happening for a while.
Yes.
I'm in the hope that when we do operations, actual grounded operations, that will be Chinese involvement, not just oversight. And that would mean interoperability, that we're working together in operations, joint operations, for the benefit of China, benefit of Chinese nationals who are here for their protection, which actually gives them confidence as well, by the way, that their own government is actually deploying to an extent and helping Pakistan to defeat this menace.
Exactly, and it's wonderful to see over here, and the recent diplomatic ascent that we have seen for Pakistan is something that we cannot keep calm as Pakistan is, alhamdulillah, Pakistan doing wonderfully well in all fronts as well, maybe the civil leadership, maybe the military leadership, maybe business-to-business ties, people-to-people ties. Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, alhamdulillah, is flying high. At this point of time, I'm going to hold on to Dr. AQAB over here, but I'm going to switch the topic just a little bit right after a while. So please make sure that you stay with us.
Working national.
All right, so we've certainly there's been a conversation about the Ukraine deal, ladies and gentlemen. The Trump administration has been at the forefront of it as well. We do know how Mr. Witkoff was in Moscow. There've been quite several talks as well taking place. Initially it was said that that they wanted a part of Ukraine, and then Mr. Zelensky said that it's never going to happen that way. So I think because we have a geostrategist over here in the studios, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity, kind of ask him, what does he make of this deal? Do you think that this deal will come through? Do you think that it still probably needs to kind of be vetted more and probably heard from both the people, whether what do they want, or the nations?
I think Zelensky is looking at the interests of Ukraine.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. He's the one in charge of Ukraine. He's been there from the forefront. And in essence, irrespective of what other people might say, he's been a generally good war leader. And he's been at the front lines, making sure he gets allies everywhere, and he's got the European nations on his side predominantly. There are issues, and there are selective countries that are not supportive of this, but generally the European front is quite solid. And this is where the announcement came from Putin himself, when he said, if you want a war to Europe, he was saying, I'll give you a war. But nobody wants a war in Europe, and that could escalate into something catastrophic. And I don't think anybody in the world wants this to occur. But it's also a form of deterrence as well, to say, let's get on with this. All this negotiation is very good. The fact of the matter is Russia is going to hold ground. Whether that's good or bad as far as Ukraine is concerned is something that Ukraine must decide. Now, peace treaties can come from the outside, but at the end of the day, without a compliant state actively involved in the peace treaties, such as Ukraine, how can there be a peace treaty with the actual fundamental body not involved directly?
Yeah, exactly.
So there has to be some understanding between the US and Zelensky to some extent, because he's going to be pulled on board. This peace treaty may be signed, but it won't last more than days. Something will happen which will create something that will stop it. And that actually disastrous for long-term peace, because it sets a precedent for future peace treaties to fail as well.
But there's another precedent which was set, because I think everybody came across these visuals from White House where Mr. Zelensky was meeting Mr. President Donald Trump. It wasn't really very well taken by the Trump administration. What do you make of that? Is President Trump keeping it all up behind, and he's like, okay, let's do it for the people, for the peace in the region?
Oh, that's a question. but it's a good question to ask, because this is something I've thought
that's
about.
a precedent, right?
No, I've thought about this a lot, and I think Trump wants to resolve this issue. I think it's in the best interest of the world.
Yep.
I think that it's trying to bring parties together to make sure and ensure that there's some lasting peace proposal that will be acceptable to all sides. But he's also, remember, he's also a businessman.
Yeah.
And we can question that. Many people will do question the veracity of that. But the fact is, he is, and he's brought up like this.
Oh, he's really smart.
So for him, it's about the deal.
Exactly.
And the fact is, he always leads from a strong position and may compromise a little bit, but if you don't lead from that strong position, there'll be very little on your side. So you have to set the precedent high. You have to make sure the deal is very strong on your side and push it through. Problem with that is that it could lead to a disaster where Ukraine says absolutely no, because it's seen in the European theater that Trump is more gravitating towards Russia.
Exactly.
not to placate it per se, because there are potential opportunities in investment. Remember this, it's all about the money for him as well, not just geostrategic, because he's not a geostrategist.
Yeah.
He doesn't see the world the way I see it, because his field is not that. His mind is wide in a different way. Potential opportunities for collaboration within Russia may be greater than those with Europe, as far as resources are concerned, but also in the larger global picture, he's looking at dividing the unity between China and Russia. Remember that.
All right. So let's bring it here. And I'm loving this conversation as of now, because people will have far more understanding. Now, imagine that, that there were tariffs being slapped onto multiple countries by the Trump administration because of the fact that they were doing business with Russia. Now, imagine if it's the representative of the Trump administration going to Russia and Ukraine to break out a peace treaty. How would that be received? Number one. Number two, just to wrap it up, because we're short on time, because the NATO chief actually said that we were all working to bring the war against Ukraine to an end. With a just and lasting peace, we welcome the ongoing efforts led by the United States to make this a reality. In addition to this, the head of the Western Military Alliance said Kiev had already shown that it was ready to play ball. So two different aspects.
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're working towards one goal at the end of the day. When we talk about investments, we're looking at opportunities here. But fundamentally, it comes down to this, doesn't it? Which aspect of peace will make both parties come to the table when they can come to an agreement? Everybody sets their agenda. They're not willing to move at the beginning. That's how peace treaties work. Negotiations occur. There's some give on both sides, generally, coming to a point where they're more acceptable for all through incentive-driven peace treaties. There has to be some form of incentive.
True.
They may be hidden in the public sphere, but there is some form of incentive, some give and take. America may give certain things to Ukraine for rebuilding. There may be some options as far as reconstruction is concerned from other parties as well, but also to Russia.
True.
To bring it within the fold to some extent, within the G7, for example. That is an opportunity that Russia does want. And it wants to be playing ball with the international community as far as the economic situation is concerned.
True.
And it does want to resolve it. There's no doubt about that. But it has to hold its own ground, and so does Zelensky. So initial setting is, we're holding our ground, we're not willing to move, and Trump is pushing pressure on both sides to make the move, but it's also matters personal national pride. Remember that. If you give in too early, later on the peace won't work, because there are divisive elements within each country which will upset that balance.
Exactly.
So there has to be a balance between the two. Negotiations do not work unless both parties are on board.
And that's
But the front part has to be strong.
And that's very well summed up as well, Dr. AQAB. It was wonderful to be in conversation
very much.
with you. Thank you so much. I think it was for the very first time that I have come across such a very well-versed geostrategist who actually has an understanding of not just the past, but how the future might unfold. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I
ladies and
appreciate it.
gentlemen. With that, we're actually heading out to a short break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back, because when you come back, we're talking about the day, which is very important. We're talking about people living with disabilities. We are Well This Morning. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. For each and every one of you who might just have tuned in to Pakistan TV, you're watching Well This Morning. I happen to be Shahzadkhan. Earlier, we were in conversation with Dr. AQAB MALIK. What a well-versed guy and a gentleman with quite a lot of understanding of geostrategic or geostrategically changing opinions globally. And in addition to this, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very important day, and it's because of the fact that, as Pakistanis, this is one thing that I've always been making sure that I would want to advocate. It's the day for people living with disabilities. There's quite a lot that the government can do. There's quite a lot which the private parties can do. There's quite a lot which the corporate sector can do. But there's quite a lot which a single individual can do. And if it is onto us, ladies and gentlemen, it's more about awareness, making sure that there are people more aware about it, how to make them more inclusive into our ecosystem, not just our ecosystem, speaking about our communities, speaking about, the social status that all of us enjoy, and that's exactly how everybody needs to feel about it. In addition to this, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who's been working for the people, living with disabilities. It has been 14 years that he's dedicated his life. He was just in Copenhagen a few days ago, and we could have met, but I unfortunately didn't have the visa.
Yeah.
We're very lucky, ladies and gentlemen, that we've been joined by the CEO and founder of DeafTawk. He happens to be Mr. Ali SHABBAR. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you? Good morning.
Walaikum salam, Shahzad, and thank you so much for inviting me. And kudos to you, how you paradigm shift your communication from Ukraine to global politics to certain development element on disability.
Exactly, and that's certainly the kind of flight that we're taking over here at Pakistan TV. Wonderful to have you over here.
Thank you,
and
thank you.
Ali, before we move on towards DeafTawk, I would want you to kind of take a moment and share your thoughts, about people living with disabilities day to day with our audiences. How do you feel about it, and how people really need to be kind of more sensitive towards people who are living with disabilities?
Actually, whenever we talk about disability, we always perceive a person who is very crippleized, harmonized, or more importantly, isolated, very poor. Yes, it's true, because as Clifford Gates says, disability or poverty chase each other. But on the other side, it's not the case as well. It's about all how we perceive disability and how we talk about disability. Just a question on it. Whenever we want to define disability, we never able to define disability because it's different from your perception to my perception.
Yep.
But whenever we take a notion on person with disability, so WHO has a clear criteria, which is person with disability, a guy or a woman who face long-term impairment in terms of walking, seeing, hearing, or intellectual one, thought process one, plus access to the society, like how barriers they face or how much barriers they face.
True.
So somebody who is blind but not facing any sort of barrier, so he cannot be defined as a person with disability to some extent. And that's what we think in the developed states, because as we were in Copenhagen, the accessibility, the tactiles which they provide to the blind community, it's amazingly good. But when I came to Pakistan, I need assistance, I need certain barriers to access to certain places, and certainly I turned into a person with disability.
Exactly. And thank you so much for pinpointing that, because imagine that, now if we are to speak about, developed countries, I don't think that, that people over here have such accessibility challenges, and which is why I would want to kind of bring into attention and consideration that imagine out of the 7 billion or 8 billion or 7.5 billion population globally, 1.3 billion people worldwide live with disability, and that makes almost 15 to 17% of the entire global population. Now, if we are to speak about it, because we are speaking about the theme which is fostering disability, inclusive societies for advancing social progress. Now, I would want to kind of ask you, what do we mean by disability inclusion in everyday life?
Actually, there are two things on it, inclusion and participation.
Okay.
And it's all gathered along with each other, because if it is inclusive, a person with disability can participate.
Okay.
Or if a person with disability can participate, automatically this society can be inclusive, because it's a thought process on advocacy, on the communication element.
Exactly.
Well, when we talk about the disability models, so that's one of the alignment on it. Like if we talk about the social aspect of a disability, because we are not doctors, so we cannot define the medical model properly, and we are not the philanthropists, so we cannot define the charity model. But yes, on the attitudinal side, we usually say is, because they are persons with disability, so we need to uplift them, we need to give them charity, but it's not the case, because resources always be defined by the rights rather than the needs.
True.
So when we only fulfilling the needs, it's been devised as a charity. Whereas when we talk about the rights, so yes, one right is access to the right-based approaches, such as education, employment opportunities. Secondly, how it can happen. So we need to change the attitudes. Like persons with disabilities are human like us. So they are not one who always needs support, but they can be the extension part of the society, or productive part of the society, so we can include them in the
Exactly,
in the
and there needs to be behavioral changes and
Yep.
and change in attitude, and that's exactly where we will actually come across real-time change.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to this is one thing that I've seen, for all of my friends, even you are over here as well. I do know for a fact, because I've been a part of making sure that that there are awareness campaigns, not just in Pakistan but globally. Have participated in other countries as well, to make sure that that we raise our concerns. We make sure that there's more way for people for their participation, just as rightly you mentioned. I do believe that technology now has actually made it possible for them to be equally productive members of the society, and that's where we really need to change the mindset, and that's where DeafTawk is going to come in. Now, so why don't you take a moment and let my audiences know what DeafTawk has done precisely and briefly, and what we are on to now since the advent of artificial intelligence.
Oh yes, just I'm taking a step back.
Sure.
When we are talking about the social model and disability. So that's one is attitude, and the other, the critical is the environmental accessibility. And when we talk about the environmental accessibility, means infrastructure accessible for physical disabilities, for blind people, for the deaf community. And when we talk about the deaf community, it's a communicational barrier we have to eliminate it. And last, technology is also an environment. So we need to make that space accessible for blind, for physical disabilities, and that's DeafTawk do.
True.
We bridge the communication gap for the deaf community by providing a digital sign language interpretation services through a mobile application, which connects deaf users with human interpreters on the go, like the digital ride-hailing apps used to do in Pakistan or globally as well. On the other side, we still know it's a fact, like if we talk about the global population size, 466 million. In Pakistan, it's 10 million. After India and China, this is the third largest population which speaks a different language, which you and I don't know, which is a sign language.
Yeah.
So we can be the Google translator for the deaf community by far when we have the AI, which is artificial intelligence. Just on one side, we always take, AI always take the jobs. But on the other side, it is critical important to bring the accessibility.
Exactly, and it does the job as well. And since we are talking about accessibility, and it's always accessibility which certainly actually becomes a challenge. And I think that once that box is ticked off, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's equally level, and it's a level playing field. And that's exactly what I saw today. So imagine, because I was smiling and I knew that Ali's already here. So the person who was driving you to Pakistan TV did see me smiling, and what I saw was that you were actually on your cell phone. And since you're an inspiration, you are an influence, how do you make sure that you make technology accessible for you? Even if you would want to take, do you have your cell phone on you?
Oh yes.
As of now, do you have your cell phone on you?
Actually, I gave to my colleague, so it doesn't ring on
That's perfectly. But why not? Why not give an example to our audiences who are out there, people still thinking whether what can we do? So can we please get his phone over here so that he can show the rest of the world whether how he is doing it for himself, going all over the world, making sure that that everything and every part of the world is accessible for him. So his friend is over here. Who actually, thank you so much. Hi, wonderful to have you over here. So Ali, ladies and gentlemen, over here will actually give us an example of how Ali is making sure that his day-to-day things are being done. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is my phone. Sorry. And that way you can see listen my password.
Yeah. So can you?
Yeah. So
I hope that your wife's not watching the show.
Oh,
That's
yes.
where the password will actually bring a lot of damage.
Yeah. So
you just have to raise your phone a little bit for our camera, yes, so that people can
all
see
right.
this.
So this is again AI, which is a speak to text or text to speech element.
Okay.
So whatever on screen it's coming, it speaks for me.
All right.
So for example, I'm opening my mail,
Okay.
and when it opens, so I can listen, like which is the first mail. So this is Deborah who is mailing me and wanted to have a meeting. So
And now when you have to reply to them, how do you reply to them?
I just open it, it speaks, and it's
So speak now.
yeah, it speaks.
Their inboxes and strengthen every to protect their AC3. That's why businesses of tab bar selected.
Wow.
Interaction, summarize, delete button. Mark is unread. Reply.
So
I think
reply
that,
and
yeah. So I think what you've done is that you've given people a solution that you certainly are not left behind, that you're all included, And that's exactly the kind of message that we really need to kind of give to people who are out there. But thank you so much, Ali, for being
You're
with us. And that
welcome.
too on such an important day. We were talking about participation. We were talking about changing attitudes. And that too for people who are living with disabilities. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. It's a shake hand over here.
Thank you for that, always.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's always likewise as well for people who've actually changed the very paradigm for people who unfortunately couldn't access technology or couldn't tap on to this.
Yeah, and that's what I want to just advocate or just with that platform, because for deaf community, for persons with disability, technology is essential. And access to those smartphone gadgets is very, very essential. So I just recommend or advise or raise a voice to the government of Pakistan, please reduce the taxes. It's very expensive to afford it.
I think everybody would want to say that. But thank you so much for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is that I'm going to take you to the field of sports. You do know for a fact that, you know, how I would always want to kind of bring it in. So I think that the first thing that I'm going to speak about is the international or the ILT20 kicked off with a spectacular opening ceremony at Dubai Stadium. Pakistani superstar Ali Zafar set the stage, alight thrilling fans with his chart-topping hits. A packed stadium echoed with music and excitement as the six-team tournament officially began. The league will feature 34 high-octane matches and run until January 4th. Cricket fans can catch all the live action on PTV Sports HD. Well, that's wonderful. ILT20 is on. And since we are talking about cricket, I'm going to speak about how Pakistan-Sri Lanka toured the national squad to play 3 T20 internationals in January. Pakistan's men's squad will travel to Sri Lanka next month for a 3-match T20 international series. All matches will be played at Rangiri Dambula International Cricket Stadium on 7th, 9th and 11th of January. The series will serve as preparation for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2026, where Pakistan are in Group A and will play all fixtures in Colombo. Well, that's wonderful, because I was thinking that if the World Cup is set to start in February, we really need to have a few games just before that. Now, since we're talking about sports over here, ladies and gentlemen, sports do require quite a lot of youth in you, and there needs to be quite a lot of energy, and that there are people who are actually making sure that every single day what they're going to do is that they're going to contribute towards the youngsters of the country in any way and in any form. And imagine that they do it so wonderfully well that they have been recognized internationally. Imagine that this gentleman who's actually joining us as of now happens to have knowledge in medicine, customs, taxation, business law, and public sector. One of my favorite, most amazing people. He happens to be Joint Secretary at the Prime Minister's office and has been leading the Prime Minister Youth Program. He was awarded with the Dr. Henry Charles Global Youth Worker Award 2025 under auspices of Commonwealth and Commonwealth Alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the man of the hour, Dr. Muhammad Ali Malik, Joint Secretary, PMYP, Prime Minister Youth Program. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much, Shahzad, for having me on the show.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Always wonderful to have you over here. But sir, first things first, you have always been a source of inspiration. There are quite a lot of programs that I've done with the Prime Minister Youth Program. You've been a long-standing member of that. There's this shift and change that we have seen in mindsets. But first things first, let's speak about the award that you've been awarded.
Thank you very much, Shahzad. It's in the honor of and memory of Dr. Henry Charles, who had served his whole life, more than 40 years, in serving youth for youth development as a youth worker. So he passed away last year during the Global Youth Work Conference that was held in Readings in UK. And on the day of the conference, he passed away in the morning. So the Commonwealth, they started this award to remember and take forward his legacy. And this was the inaugural award, and I'm humbled and honored that I got this award. They got the whole nominations from the whole world, including the Commonwealth countries, and then the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Commonwealth Alliance for Global Youth Workers Association. They selected me for this award, and I think that this is a great honor for the Prime Minister's Youth Program for Pakistan. It's a recognition of the initiatives being done under the Prime Minister's Youth Program for youth empowerment and development. at the global level.
Exactly, and it certainly, in all forms, is recognition for Pakistan and the initiative of the Prime Minister Youth Program as well. But sir, nothing to take away from any other Joint Secretary. But you know, you're one of a kind where whenever I've met you, you're always busy. You know, and you're always in conversation with those youngsters. You know, maybe you know, any platform. You've always made sure that you take out time and sit down with them, and you hear them out. What is that one difference that you would say that the Prime Minister's Youth Program of Pakistan, which is why that we've been awarded with this award, number one, what are those characteristics that you have precisely focused on to make sure that what we are here to, you know, do for the youngsters of Pakistan is being delivered as well?
I think the major focus is on the young people. It's the young people-centric approach, because when you look from the perspective of the young people, they are passing through a certain phase of their life and having their peculiar needs. So how we connect them with the right opportunities by creating those enabling and platforms and conducive environment. And because youth development is a cross-cutting area, those young people, they need health, they need education, they need skills, they need jobs. So there are different ministries at the federal level as well as provincial departments working in this area. So how to connect all those departments with a whole of the government approach, how to build strong and meaningful partnerships by bringing together not only just public sector organizations, but also the private sector, the development partners, the UN organizations. So we need to work together, we need to break those silos and connect our young people with those opportunities so that they can move forward. And we believe that if our young people become successful, only this is the way forward for Pakistan to grow.
Alhamdulillah, that's wonderful. And you know, for people, you know, who's out there, because I've been, you know, participating with the Prime Minister Youth Program and their annual conferences and whatnot. There's one thing that I came to know that too was that it wasn't just about sports, you know. And since you mentioned about education, it was about IT, information technology, it was about artificial intelligence. There are tech hubs, you know, out there to facilitate people. Not just that, you know, there are new startups which are being facilitated by not just by the government, but the you know, private partners as well. But and since you've mentioned and you've used the term very rightfully, it's a cutting edge. Now, when we speak about cutting edge, there's so much innovation, Dr. Sahab, which is happening every single day. So how do you make sure that you always stay on top of that and make it more inclusive for our people who are out there, youngsters? With 60% population of Pakistan is youngsters.
So the Prime Minister's Youth Program is structured around 4 core areas: education, employment, engagement, and environment. So we are ensuring that we ensure that they will provide quality education or gainful employment opportunities or meaningful engagement with our young people. So through our different initiatives, working in partnership with different ministries, so we are ensuring that young people are involved, we are engaging them, we are involving them in all the policy making process. Recently we have worked on the National Adolescent and Youth Policy, and we have visited across Pakistan, and we engaged more than 200,000 young people from diverse backgrounds, not only from the mainstream but also from the remote areas, from the villages, from the persons with special abilities. Like today we have this International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So the Prime Minister's Youth Program ensures that it is inclusive, it is sustainable, and everyone becomes part of this, and no young people should be left behind.
Exactly, and we've certainly seen that, and we've seen how the Honorable Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Mia Mohammed Shahbaz Sharif, has always made sure that he's going to prioritize it as well. Not just that, Rana Mashood has been over here, you know, quite a lot of times as well. But how do you, Dr. Malik, how do you feel, first of all, shaking hands with a successful youngster?
I'm feeling honored, I'm feeling proud, and we are proud of our young people. We believe that our young people are so much talented and they have so much potential. Just we need to channelize and create some those enabling environment for them to move forward.
And you've done that phenomenally well. Thank you so much, Dr. Malik, for being with us. And thank you so much for bringing such a prestigious award back home to Pakistan, and that too for all the services for youngsters that the Pakistan government has prioritized, making sure that, you know, that the Pakistani youngsters are at the forefront of almost every development which is taking place in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it for now. We are World This Morning. Look after yourselves and have a good day. Thank you, sir.